Okay. Approval of the tentative agenda. There was an item added yesterday afternoon that she didn't get a new copy printed up for us. She was in quick, but she did get it posted in the other places, and that was in regards to an issue we have going on. So that should be on.
We don't understand, sorry.
We have an issue where a farmer hit a manhole out in the field. So, anyway, that is added onto the agenda. I guess the next one I can do when we get done with claims paid. So do I have approval for the tentative agenda?
I'll approve it.
Second. Mindy, and who seconded?
Me.
Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay. Public comments.
I'm not sure who pool committee is, but the baby pool needs to be cleaned out. I was up there last week and it's turned into a swamp. And you like it too bad, it turns into a nightmare to clean. Trust me.
Yep.
Any other?
I do have a, well, wait a minute, I'll say something.
Okay.
Well, it turned off awful hot, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Now it is.
That's the best you could do.
Well, I did want to complain about my neighbors down the road, their house and their mess there. Are they gonna clean that up? But we just can't let that happen.
I am hoping so.
Well,
Unfortunately, that's not our only issue going on with the
well, that's the
couple other
first one
houses.
that's come in what, 2 weeks, they're in and you ought to see it. You can't get up the street because they park out on the street too.
Yeah. And they keep pulling stuff in. Yeah, that, we have another couple more that we're looking at.
So you say we're gonna look at, well, are you looking into it? Well, you hear the same thing every time I come down.
Okay, they just moved in up there, Mary, and I don't know if they're,
Staying or,
no, I mean, I don't know if they're gutting that house. I don't know what they're doing inside. I guess it was quite a mess. But we have two other houses that was just recently moved in within probably, what, the last week and a half? Yeah.
It's not livable.
One, we couldn't stop it, we tried. We consulted with the attorney, they're in there. I am not sure how they think they're gonna get power hooked up, but. It's also on Main Street, so.
But I will be talking to that young couple in the brown house.
up on the corner, or the,
Next to the SNAP. I've already had to talk to them once because they parked in the SNAP parking lot with all that stuff. Yeah, I was like, I don't need the council coming after me for another place, come on. But I plan on talking to them nicely.
The wheels
We'll
of
go that way
progress
first.
move slow. You know, you have to do things legal and,
Well,
we'll
and,
put it this way, for every
I don't
solution,
know.
there seems to be a problem.
but I will talk to them, Mary.
Is there any provision in Iowa law for a town to condemn a property? It seemed like we talked about this one time before.
Yeah, you got red tape you have to go through,
Of course you do.
but,
But is it something that the attorney should look into to advise the board?
yeah. You would have
The issue
to,
is if you condemn it, then the city is likely going to have to tear it down and pay the cost and try and reclaim it, which
Well,
you have to have
that's
money.
fine. If that's what the city has to do to make the city livable, that's what they have to do. And they have to provide water and sewer and stuff. So if it's a problem that we need to resolve, how do we resolve it instead of just talking about it? I think that's what Mary's saying. And I don't have the answer, I'm just asking if there is a procedure.
Well, one property, the owner, after she was sent notification that it needed to come down, she accepted the letter. And probably within 2 weeks of her accepting the letter, we had someone call that they had bought that property.
Same
And we're
problem.
moving in. And we said it was uninhabitable.
You know, that's fine, but if there's a procedure that has to be followed, it can be written into the town, into the,
But what I'm saying, Floyd, is when some of these properties, the owner, unbeknownst to anybody, sells that property to someone else, then you're back to square one. I mean, how do you fight this?
I don't know.
So, yeah,
I'm sure
it's,
there's more towns in Union with this problem, so there is solutions on it.
yep.
Do you have proof that they bought it? I mean, did you see a
Or they just
contract?
call you and say, we bought it, somebody bought it.
The one property, yes, it is in the person's name. The other one said they were buying it. They were told in order for the utilities, it went under renter because there wasn't proof yet that they had actually bought it. But supposedly they are. And as soon as they can prove it, they need to come into City Hall. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Any other public comments?
Yeah, I got a question. So I'm doing the documentary on the town that the UBA hired me. Sorry, I just ran. I'm not young anymore. Sorry. So I know due to the tax issue that the city put their tax ID and name under the grant to receive the funds. Do I get my pay from you guys? Or are you guys giving that to the UBA? Do you guys know what's going on there?
That one went through too. We never got a copy of that.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Was that in there too? So it would be written under the city,
Okay.
so. We'll trek along.
Okay. Yeah. I just need to know because if I'm buying flash drives, I need to have a few hundred to pay those. So.
Okay.
I do have one last comment.
Oh, she's doing the documentary for the
150th.
For the 150th, and they did a grant for her to do it, and that check is also in here, and she's needing some funds. Lacey probably won't be back in till Thursday.
That's fine. I just have until the end of the month that I kind of want to do. So I figured now's the time to ask.
Hopefully I won't forget. If I do, remind me.
Will do. I mean, I'll just talk to the council member that I work with every day.
One last comment. Thank you for the dumpster. When I went there, it was very, very full. It made me think a lot of people were using it, and I was very appreciative of that. My only thought was, next time we do it, possibly posting somewhere, if someone has something they can't get to the dumpster, there might be some of us that have pickups that would come pick it up. But there was a lot of big stuff in there, it was a lot, and I
Yeah.
actually saw some of the ground too, I hate to say, but thank you to the town for doing that.
Yeah. It was an experience, we'll put it that way. Wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. It might have been the last one.
Unless we can figure out something different.
No, it was, we would just, another dumpster would have probably solved the whole problem.
Yeah.
We, live and learn.
Well, we had the same pickup with the trailer, and it was in unload. Pretty soon, here it come back, unload. Pretty soon, here it come back,
Yeah.
and it filled up fast.
Yeah.
So, that was more or less an abnormal situation.
Yeah.
It's like somebody cleaned out their whole house.
House.
Live and learn.
Yeah, doing that.
Any other public comments? Okay, I need approval of the April City Council and library minutes and claims paid. On claims paid, Joe, or Perry, I should say, submitted his bill, which Lacey wasn't here, for taking out that walking bridge. So that is there, which we had already more or less approved. And for the work they did out there last night, he just handed me a bill to, if you guys would want to see it, and so I can just put it on the bill list.
And that was like an emergency call out. Mainly we had to determine, we got an open manhole out there, what's going on, and it was.
Are you okay with it?
Yes.
Yeah. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, we pay the bills with the addition of the South Creek,
South Fork Line.
South Fork.
In the minutes.
In the minutes, yes, ma'am.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the clerk report is in there, and if you have questions, on anything, I would answer them if I can. It's been kind of a messed up week and a half with no clerk. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, the sheriff's report is in there. I have no report from Rhonda. Oh, mayor's report, where am I? The mayor's report, I said it was interesting cleanup. And the fire department did get the creek burned off, which was really pretty good timing because we got rain, and so we drove the creek to watch the water to find the worst points or a good starting point. Some of it was nice and wide and deep and flowing great, and then you get up over here and it slows down. It got through, but, so we have something to go on there. I just went brain. So I guess that's pretty much it. We had the issue out here, and I think we'll discuss that after a bit, or down on the agenda, so. Have any questions for me? Okay, Marty Wymore with Region 6.
Hi.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, how are you? I met with Lacey here probably a month ago about different upcoming city projects, and I guess our role as Region 6 Resource Partners is to help cities and counties pursue grants and loans and financing to implement projects. And I guess I kind of reviewed some of those upcoming projects with Lacey and thought it might be appropriate for me to come back to the council to talk about maybe some of the processes to apply for funding and maybe some possible projects to think about for the future. One of those projects is the storm water system through town, or the creek, or whatever you want to call that. I guess I think that would be a pretty decent project, I guess, to be in a competitive position for any grant money. You would probably need to take on at least like a $300,000 project, maybe more. You need to look at, you know, kind of making some comprehensive improvements to that creek through town. You also may need to look at some of those bridges.
Could those be combined, some projects like that with bridges and the water system, and we could combine some different things? I know we got an embankment, I don't know, like a
Retaining wall.
bunker that's holding the thing,
Sure.
it's caved in and stuff like that, would we fall under that with that same?
Right, so I guess with the grant funding, I would estimate, depending upon your project cost, but typically the grant rate is in the 50 to 60% range for projects like this. So that other 40 to 50% range would likely need to be a loan, which could be paid back through things like local option sales tax or your debt service levy or other options there for those other costs. The first step really with a project like this is, you know, to get an engineer involved that understands kind of complicated projects like this. This project, in my mind, has a lot of interesting twists to it with the funding. Some of the funding sources now want communities to look at things like rain gardens and bioswales and other things versus the typical urban storm sewer system. So looking at ways for storm waters to sort of sink into the ground versus going off to the river or other bigger streams. So those things would need to be kind of looked at during the process. Certainly those bridges, I don't know, are those ever inspected or?
Not for many, many years, and
Okay.
there's a couple I know that are not real great shape. And I was told, you know, if the inspector comes and, basically says, no, you can't use this anymore, we're gonna have to close the roads.
Right.
And it was also mentioned that maybe instead of replacing bridges, to run a culvert, or do the culvert,
Right.
which would probably be more
Yeah, and again, obviously
expensive.
each little section of the stream needs to be evaluated and, you know, what is appropriate for that area. Again, you know, dredging it out, I guess these bioswales, different things. I would estimate, again, the funding applications for a project like this are due every August. So you probably have, I'm guessing, probably a year's worth of kind of engineering questions to maybe determine before you can apply for the money. Because, yeah, if you got an engineer involved, let's say in June, I don't think we can turn this around in 30 days to, you know, meet all the application requirements. So I would think we would be looking at something like August of 23 to apply for the funding, and probably the earliest that you could do actually any construction work then would be the summer range of 24, and projects like this, again, could take 6 to 12 months to complete, so you're talking, 24 to 25 range to complete the project.
And then the expense of bringing the engineer in to even get this project started, well, that could be included in the grant money?
The upfront costs cannot be included in the grant funding, so it would be important to have some cash on hand to cover some of these initial costs. Again, you may have $10,000 of costs here up front to do these evaluations.
Probably more than that. but-
Yeah, again, that's maybe just a starting point. I just don't know how many issues are gonna come up. Again, I would guess all these bridges would need to be looked at, and I'm not sure where the stormwater outlets to.
Well, it goes all the way to the river.
Yeah, I noticed when I drove in that it's sort of in, does it go across the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the short term, can we clean that out just to, the farmer down on the far south end cleaned his section out of that waterway. They cleaned it out and pulled the dirt out of it just so they could dry up their piece of ground a little bit more. My thought was, can we start there and just have somebody come in and just start cleaning it out, just opening it up a little bit to get it to flow. There's places where it doesn't flow real good.
Yeah, I guess the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has authority over all streams in the U.S. and this would be a stream, so they're gonna have authority over anything you do within that corridor. So I wouldn't advise you to undertake any activities.
Till we speak with them.
Well, they're gonna wanna make sure that you're following engineering steps to, I guess, evaluate options, and they're gonna wanna know what you're proposing to do. Again, where are you gonna take, how much dirt or whatever you're gonna take out of the stream, or where's it gonna go? These are all kind of engineering questions, frankly. Frankly, an engineering firm would be your ally with working through all the steps with a pretty complicated project.
Well, the
Yeah.
sad part
Again, it's not
about it,
an easy undertaking.
that little stream that runs down through here along Main Street, they've got it listed as the Iowa River.
Yeah, I don't,
Well,
there's just gonna be a lot
I
of
know.
questions, and again, a farmer can do a lot of things the city, county kind of organization cannot do. Again, and likewise, they're probably not closely monitoring what the farmers are doing as well. And certainly, if the DNR or U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or somebody like that gets a complaint, then, they're gonna be in here stopping the city and potentially issuing fines and other things to, correct this, so,
So even to dredge some of this out, just to get a little bit better flow, we would have to do that. I don't believe they did the last time it was dredged.
well, again, if you're gonna go by the book, again, that would be.
So we got away with one, it sounds like.
County did it. Was the county?
The county did it?
Yes.
Well, then they're on the hook for it, actually.
So, and again, obviously, the grant scenario, I don't know if you have cash on hand to pay these
For
kinds
the
of.
engineer,
Right,
yeah.
do you have cash on hand?
Well, yeah, we have capital money. and we have project money, I don't know how much, without looking at, sitting down and really looking at it, where the best place to draw that money from would be,
Sure.
but
So you could take out.
we got a lot of projects we need to do in this town that we could spend $300,000 in a half a dozen different, divided up $300,000, we could spend that in several different places.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we have a lot of, but none of them would, the creek, the waterway would be the most expensive project that we're looking at. We got street repairs that we could probably do a lot of, we could probably spend $300,000 in street repair if we dump it all and, okay, this street, everything needs, how extensive do we wanna make a project?
And likewise.
Either way, we have to have upfront money to get an engineer to come in and say this is, even if it's a street project.
Yeah, again, you're not gonna get any grant money for streets here. Again, I've been doing this for 35 years, and again, the only streets here that are eligible for funding are the county road extensions.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
So again, certainly if you have, some of these bridges may be eligible for, the city bridge fund through the DOT, but again, that's kind of part of this review process that we need to go through with an engineering firm to look at the creek and all these structures that cross over the creek. And to replace a bridge usually takes 3 to 4 years to go through all the engineering, everything for that, so. And likewise, I guess to get an engineer involved in the creek study, I would want to get, look at some engineers that have similar experience.
Have you got some recommendations for those that you can?
I frankly would need to, make some contacts. There are not a lot of firms out there that probably have similar experience with, a lot of projects are, it's kind of water sewer projects and pretty straightforward. This is certainly a unique situation.
Well, I mean, the DNR would be involved and the Corps.
Right, yeah, I have certain, handful of engineers that I would reach out to and try to say,
You
well,
could get us some contact numbers.
I could, I guess after the meeting here, we could talk about what the best process is to move forward.
Yeah.
I guess I could, reach out to half a dozen firms and, find who has some similar experience. And then, likewise, say which firms maybe you should be in conversation with.
Right.
about-
First thing we want to explain to them though is we ain't got no money.
That'll make for a
Well, I
much,
did you have a question?
that'll make for a much shorter conversation. I do have, when I was in here 2 weeks ago, I gave a thing about, I said Iowa Land Stewardship, was that the name of that group?
IDALS, Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship.
Because I talked to somebody that they were saying that they had funding available for these kind of projects. But I don't know.
Maybe, there's a big maybe that way too. So again, it's just important that we have enough time to go through the process. And again, there's bridge money and there's other money for storm sewers and then there's, so there's a lot of, handful of funding sources.
We could combine all them together and.
I think it's very likely, though, that you're still gonna have to look at whether it's local option sales tax, issuing a bond with that repayment method, or using your debt service levy as a repayment method for part of the cost.
The balance.
Right.
From the grant.
Yeah, because I don't think you're gonna get grant funds to cover 100% of the cost. That's not realistic.
Well, it seems like a few years ago, when we talked about this, and Nate maybe can remember, there was some discussion about at the bridge just north of our property, to straighten that creek, to run it right down here by the telephone location. And to
I
do
don't
that,
remember that conversation.
There was an Iowa State survey done years ago.
and in doing that, there would be some properties that would be condemned because they go on a diagonal right across there. And you could put retention ponds in if it was condemned, because you can see them in Des Moines, there's just great big holes with grass in them, that's a retention pond.
Yeah.
Which will take care of that percolation. I don't think
Sure.
it will, because we're right at river level anyway, but I would think that the Iowa Land Stewardship thing, see if we can find out from Iowa State that review, I mean, it's done once.
But are you legally able to change the natural course of the creek?
No, not
See?
without permission. I mean, even I as a farmer, I had to put in some
Alter the-
culverts because I couldn't change the creek, so now it's eroding somebody else's land. So, anyway, if the Iowa Land Stewardship is a place that can go, who goes there and talks to them? How's it done?
Well, again, with each funding source, there's a process to go through, and the first step of the process is to have an engineering study to evaluate your options. Yeah, I guess what needs to be done to address the problems through Union. And I think that's the unanswered question here, is what realistically needs to be done for the next 20 years, 30 years. I guess that's the scope of time frame that we should be looking at as something.
Yeah, because it won't make 20 years, I mean.
Right, yeah, again, the type of improvements that we would need to look at and tell these different funding sources that are, you know, you have a plan here that's gonna be, it's gonna cost X dollars, and somehow we need to get that funded.
So we get an engineering company to come in, this is what needs to be done. Then we get a contractor to come in and give us a price to do what this engineering guy said, is that?
Well, again,
Or does these
What- what-
engineerings have,
I guess I would say engineering is step one. I would guess that's maybe gonna take 6 months to complete that.
yeah,
I would say the funding phase probably need to allow 6 to 9 months to complete that. After the funding phase is done, then I would allow another 3 months to go through, kind of the environmental reviews and other reviews. At least 3 months, maybe more like 6 months.
but before we can do a funding process, don't we have to know what kind of funding we need?
Right, I would say roughly next spring, early summer, that we should have a funding. We should know what the proposed improvements are gonna cost.
Oh, because the engineering company will know that?
Right.
Oh, okay, that's, I guess, what was my question.
Right, and then once we know what those improvements are gonna cost, then we can say, well, realistically, here's some funding sources, and here's how you can cover the cost and get the project completed.
Yeah.
So that would be, again, roughly summer of '23 when
Yeah,
that
but
process would be done.
getting it started is the main thing.
Yeah, and again, you're probably looking at late '24, '25 for actual completion, so you're
Right,
looking at several years down the road.
yeah. But there's nothing we can do in the meantime, short term, it doesn't sound like, unless the Army Corps of Engineers gives us an okay, or the county gets an okay, like they did a few years back, to pull some out of along the road right there, because it floods the county road. And then, of course, then floods some businesses and so,
Yeah, I guess I don't want to speak for the county,
Yeah.
what they're willing to do.
yeah, okay.
So I guess the other funding resources that are out there, I guess probably 5 years ago, we applied for some state REAP money to do the bicycle trail from whatever this road is back to the Iowa River. Yeah, to lay down some gravel and do some landscaping. That project wasn't funded, but that's a project, I guess that funding is due every August, mid-August. So Union would be eligible for, I think it's 50,000 of funding. So 50,000 doesn't get very far. Yeah, that's part of the challenge of that program is, there's, money for commercial cleanup of properties, but again, the city has to own the property. So again, that's part of the challenge. You were talking before about trying to clean up some residential properties. There's really no grant funding available for that, but,
Unless we own the building.
well, even if you own the building, there's no funding available for that. There is funding available to do asbestos studies. So again, if the house contains, again, most of these old houses have some asbestos in them, whether that's around the furnace or hot water or plumbing or roofing components. Those are all very common. So there is grant money to help cover the cost of doing the inspection and potentially some of the abatement cost. And again, with other communities, I guess the first process is to have a dangerous and dilapidated ordinance on the books. I guess I don't know if you have a dangerous and dilapidated ordinance on the books for Union. And then I guess with those type of ordinances, then you get your city attorney involved to declare it a danger. And again, the only option is really to, again, for the city to demo the building and put a lien against the property. And hope to get some of it recovered either now or in the future when the property may sell.
Who deems that property dangerous and dilapidated?
A lot of cities hire structural engineers. Again, I know we've done some of those reviews with my staff. I guess if you have one of those ordinances on the books, dangerous buildings, there you go. Okay. So yeah, it looks like you.
I was thinking there's something somewhere else in there too, in regards.
Yeah, again, we could potentially come look at the building and make a short little memo, I guess, about our findings.
I mean, in the past, our fire chief has gone in buildings, abandoned buildings or whatever, okay, this one's uninhabitable, boom, he condemns it.
Sure.
It doesn't seem to hold any weight though.
Yeah,
I
again,
mean, I don't know if it ever gets, who does it have to be filed with, or does it?
again, a lot of cities will hire these structural engineers. Again, that's another expense for you. Yeah, again, we could certainly look at the building and cite any violations that it's.
And then what keeps the guy just from selling that property to somebody else and they move into it? That's the problem.
Well, yeah, again, then you're,
They're moving into a condemned house.
I know Marshalltown deals with this all the time, and I have communications with Marshalltown, so again, you just gotta get your city attorney involved and then start filing a lawsuit against whoever owns the thing.
You can also get an injunction against the property owner to make any transfer. County attorney can probably do that.
That they can't transfer the property?
Yes.
Probably too late for that. On that one property, anyway.
The swimming pool, I know sounds like you got different maintenance items that need to be done on that. Again, the only thing that's really available for swimming pools is, it used to be called Community Attraction and Tourism, now it's called Enhance Iowa, but that's typically about a 20% grant program, so they want the city to, cover a good share and then have a large fundraising component to it also. Frankly, the only probably feasible pathway to pursue that funding source would be to look at replacing that whole pool structure. Again, I know that's what Hubbard is looking at doing.
Yeah.
It gets extremely expensive.
Yeah, I think they're at around $1 million.
They're around
Three?
3 million,
Yeah.
2 to 3 anyways.
I heard that too.
So, yeah, right. So it gets very expensive. So I don't know, do you have any other projects that I haven't maybe hit on that you would like?
That waterway's our biggie. We got a sewer system that we're dealing with right now that we need to raise some manholes up, but it would never qualify. I don't think there's not enough.
Okay.
There's not enough money needs to be spent on it. Maybe $30,000 or $40,000 it may run.
Sure.
But
So,
that waterway is our biggie.
so I guess there's no fee for my services. I'm representing an intergovernmental agency, so Hardin County and all the cities in Hardin County are members of my group, which is Region 6 Resource Partners. And so again, we don't charge fees for this upfront help to figure out how to get the project done, how to get it financed, how to study the needs. Yeah, there's just a lot of steps that we need to go through here to have a realistic shot at this.
Lacey's got your contact information.
Yeah, I'll give you a card here.
I
And
know, but I think Lacey does.
I guess I only have one card, so I guess.
That's good.
So, and again, we're here to help you through this process. We understand that cities like Union don't go through this very often, and likewise, we want to see you end up with a good project at the end that's affordable.
We got a lot of infrastructure issues, and they've just been let go for so long. And somebody's at some point's got to be the one to pull the trigger on spending the money to do some of these things, or it's just going to continue to get worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't want somebody to drive their F-250 across one of these bridges and have the
Exactly.
bridge collapse.
They've got weights limits on them, but I don't even know. I don't know if they pay attention. I don't even know if those weights are even valid anymore. They may need to be less than what they are. I don't know, but all the more reason for liability issues to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want somebody to be underground and a bunch of water underneath there, so, I'm not trying to scare you here, but I'm just thinking about all the news reports I've heard through the years, freak things happen. And, so, I guess really the next step is to look at the engineering piece. Again, frankly, I would want to reach out to, again, a handful of engineers that we work with that we consider are reliable and that don't take cities for everything that you own. There's some of those firms out there.
Well, nobody.
So I don't want to steer you that direction.
These little small towns don't have much money anymore, that's the problem.
But likewise, I need a little direction from, the council here and, obviously maybe you don't want to decide right now, but, likewise in 30 days or something that you want to start taking the next steps here. That's really, kind of the process. So, and likewise, I've worked with Ron DeGuy on many projects around the region here that I work in. And So she's a good person too, but I don't think she deals with stormwater issues, so. But that's all I have for you tonight, so again, I'm here to help and help try to work through things, and this is gonna be a long grind, I'm afraid, to work through all the various channels and funding sources and complications of the project. So, yeah, I'm just down the road here in Marshalltown, so I'm 30 minutes away, so I can easily zoom up here for meetings, discussions with whatever to help this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
So,
much.
okay, have a good day. So Floyd, good to see you.
Been a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So, have a good night.
Thank you.
Floyd, you're up.
Well, I
Do you
think,
have anything to add to that?
I think the first thing that needs to be done by the council is to have read into the minutes that we've now been aware of the problems and that we are taking action to resolve them. Because it's a matter of record now that you know there's a problem.
Right.
So we get it on the record that we know there's a problem, we've had this man here, which is being discussed. Within the next 30 days, we're gonna have some further instructions to Region 6, or however you wanna do it, but gets so that you guys are off the hook if something goes wrong, because it will. I guess you can't change the course of the creek right now, but that kind of, you don't know what to call it, it's kind of like a retaining wall. I looked at it earlier today and it's moved again.
Yeah.
It's my belief that you could have the Cheplack boys come down to the backhoe and just pick it out.
I tried to get them to do that last year. And they come down, and looked at it, and that's the last I heard from them.
Well, I'm gonna meet with them and ask them.
So they were gonna give us a price to do it. They don't wanna do anything on a quote,
I know.
you know, and we can't do anything without a quote, so.
Would the council give me permission to investigate that?
Absolutely, have at it. Just bring it back to us. But I took them down there, I showed them what we wanted to kind of do. Yep, we need to do this. And I said, well, get us some numbers and we'll get this thing going, you know.
Well, I'm just concerned that those boards are gonna get underneath the bridge. And then
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna have lots of problems for you and for me. And it won't take that much to take the boards out.
And they just need to put them back, redo it somehow.
I'm not as concerned about putting them back as I am getting them out, because they
Yeah.
don't really provide a function anymore. They were in there before when there was a berm on the east side of the creek. There was a berm on both sides. Well, that got flattened out when we did all that renovation of the building, so now the water just goes on the road and then comes right over to Nate's. Because that doesn't provide us, it doesn't do anything anymore. It was to keep the water from crossing the road.
You're talking about the retaining wall on your side of the street.
Yeah, just right here.
Yeah.
Well, we need to get that corner cleaned out in front of the old county shed building too.
I know, but you can't.
Why?
Well, because it's the Iowa River or whatever somebody just said.
Well, that's what they've got it listed here, because I questioned that several years ago. I said, how can that possibly be the Iowa River?
It's
Well, that's just the way they put it, and I thought that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Is there any way to look at old council minutes to find out what Iowa State did, or, you know, because I can't remember?
It's been decades ago, so even if they did something, I think you'd have to start over,
Well,
because all the waterway rules have changed so much in the last 10 years.
Well, when this guy says we're here to help, that really made me nervous, because anytime the government says they're here to help, we're really in trouble. I will talk to the Cheplacks. I'll be in Des Moines next week, and if we could find out at Iowa where that organization is, I'll go down and see them. I'll be glad to talk to them and see what they can give
The
us.
Iowa Land Stewardship. Is that what-
Whatever, I gave the secretary the piece of paper that I had, so I don't know what it's called.
Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship.
The other thing we can do, you know, when we talked, Nate, 3 years ago, when you were on the council, we, as property owners, can file against the town, but you gotta do something. We have to post a bond, but then the town is forced to do something. And maybe that's what you want, that you're legally forced to have to do something. Then it's not, people can't fuss at you because you did something without their permission. They're gonna fuss anyway, but that is another option. I forgot all the things we had, but they're in the minutes of 3 years ago, just before COVID, as I recall. So,
The other thing I'd say you probably need to do is find out the true definition of this stream. Because if you look up online, there's epithermal streams are no longer protected by the Clean Water Act. And those are those fed by precipitation events. So it might not even be one of these we gotta deal with all of them.
But it's always been a creek up to the golf
it's
course.
spring fed, it's not precipitation.
It is spring fed?
It's been there since, well, I know it's been there at least 60 years, because I played in it.
Well, it goes dry now,
Yeah.
so that's,
Yeah, and it was a creek when that wasn't a golf course, and it was timber ground all the way up along it.
Cromer's pasture.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, if you want, I'll try to see the people at Land Stewardship, if that's what you like, and I'll come back with a report on the 30th.
Thank you.
In 30 days, whatever it is the next time.
Second Tuesday.
The last thing I'd like to say is the town council never gets any thank yous. Thank you to the mayor and Mr. Bays for picking up all that crap down there by the telephone office, so at least you got one thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you didn't come back with your shovel.
Well, that's because I'm not supposed to live more than 8. I've got to replace my shoulder next time, you know. So unless you got a question for me, I'm gonna go away.
Oh,
Thanks.
Thank you, Floyd.
Thanks for touching base with them boys and see if they'll,
I'll probably talk to them tomorrow.
all right, thanks.
thank
If I
you.
don't spend more than $500, can I go ahead and contract for it?
No, that's not up to me.
I think that would probably have to go on the agenda. We'd have to have the paperwork and then get it on the agenda to be looked at.
I'd say that would be a good deal, but I couldn't.
It's nothing more than taking out 4 boards. I think we can probably-
Don't you think that'll wash down though if you take them boards out?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
If it does, at least the boards won't be blocking it from washing down.
Right, but I'm just wondering if it's just gonna erode more on that south side there where those boards, one little bit they're doing.
I think that, I'll look at it. I'll look at it.
Okay, cause he had some ideas, Jerry did, so.
Well, Nate, maybe you and I can look at it too, because it's gonna affect both of us more than anybody else.
yeah, most of
You
the side
particularly.
now is the nice thing, but for me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd.
Excuse me. Bye-bye.
Okay, consider for approval ordinance
Well,
one.
we got one more.
Nathan.
Oh, Nathan,
Got
I'm
Nathan.
sorry.
Yep, I'm easy. I just I wanted to take away your alleyway down there like we did on the other ones last month. I own both sides of the alley. I talked to Cheryl. She's good on her. She owns the next section, and Heart of Iowa's already bought their section years ago,
It
so.
dead ends by you anyway, really, don't it?
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not an alley, it's just our driveway. But
Right.
since same people on both sides, it's an easier one than trying to get approval. And I did ask Cheryl, she'd like to have her part since she owns both. So just same deal, when I get it transferred over, we'll pay the legal fees. I think it was about $400 estimated last time.
And Cheryl wants,
Her section of
Property.
alley where it, between her 2 lots.
don't even notice there's an alley behind it.
But it is still technically,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. We don't even plow it. We plow down behind the car wash.
yeah, that's still a functional alley.
Yeah.
That needs to remain an alley because
Yeah.
people use it, but the one down here is just my driveway.
Exactly.
And it still runs through Cheryl's, and then there's no, I don't remember there ever being a bridge, but apparently there was at one point. It used to run through Heart of Iowa.
A what?
That alley used to go through Heart of Iowa. And there must have been a bridge or something there.
I don't remember it.
We'll just
But they, Heart of Iowa got that and they put that fencing up years ago. They got it.
Oh, lumberyard was set, yeah.
Yeah.
Alley there.
DMP lumberyard blocked that whole thing.
No, there was a gap between the two buildings.
Well, there might have been a gap, but it was,
There's an alley through there. If you look at Beacon, it's, and I remember when the lumberyard was there was a gap between the two where the alley is. If you remember the old front lumberyard.
DMP.
Yep. Used to shoot bats out of there.
I don't see where that'd be a problem.
We had one left in the city that maintained, even though.
Even though we don't. We can get that to
Lacey.
Lacey to follow up on.
You're wanting it kind of like what they did, so that you can get it deeded over as
Just deed
part
it.
of your property.
Deed it to me on my part between my lots, and then Cheryl on her part.
Okay.
Like I said, with the same owner on both, you don't have to split it down the middle or anything, it's just two people own those two sections.
And Cheryl is aware of the cost
Yep,
associated with that.
I told her it was $300 and some what was estimated, so.
Anything else? Sorry, I skipped you.
Oh, well, I've been worse.
Okay, consider for approval ordinance 169, amending provisions pertaining to the water rates. I think they do this annually, right? It's like a 2% increase each year, and we've been doing it for.
It was just mandated, we had to look at it, so we made sure our 2% was
Yeah,
covering
that was enough to cover expenses.
because some years if things went too much, we wanted to have somebody look at it every year.
Do you want me to read it or have you? Okay.
It's good.
So the first 1,000 gallons or less, the minimum bill would be $13.07. I forget what she told me, but
Yeah, I'll make a
actual amount is
motion
not much.
that we waive the second and third readings, if we can do that, and adopt ordinance 169.
Probably have to approve the first reading.
Yeah, it's waive the second and third.
Maybe I better read it. Ordinance number 169, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinance of the City of Union, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to water rates. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Union, Iowa. Section 1, section modified, section 92.02 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Union, Iowa is repealed and the following adopted in lieu thereof. Rates 92.02. Rates for service, all property supplied with water lines shall pay the minimum bill fee even if there is no water service being used. Effective August 1st, I thought that should be July.
The other one says July.
The sewer says July. I think that should be July. So she,
She's got July on one and August on the other.
and she was in a hurry doing things this
But
year.
the one that says July is for sewer usage.
But they're done the same time.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, for the first 1,000 gallons or less, $13.07 is a minimum bill. All over 1,000 gallons, based on water usage attributable of the customer for the property served at a rate of $3.42 per 1,000 gallons. The access fee is at $12. Rates for metered water and base rate will be adjusted 2% annually at the beginning of each fiscal year. Rates will be reviewed in January to assure 2% is the adequate adjustment. Section 2, severability clause. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, when effective, this ordinance shall be in effect from and after its final passage, approval, and publication is provided by law. So with the correction of effective July 1st instead of August 1st, now you can make your motion for the first
Yeah,
reading.
my motion stands with that exception.
Do I have a second? Carrie. We do a roll call. Simpson?
Yes.
Keller?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Collins?
Yes.
Bays? Consider waiving the second and third reading of ordinance 169.
I make a motion to waive second, third reading.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we adopt ordinance 169. Okay. Consider for approval ordinance 170, amending provisions pertaining to the sewer rates. And she has July on that. An ordinance amending the code of ordinance of the city of Union, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to sewer service fee, be it enacted by the city council of the city of Union, Iowa. Section 1, section modified, section 99.02 of the code of ordinances of the city of Union, Iowa is repealed and the following adopted in lieu thereof. 99.02 rate. All structures connected to the sewer line shall pay the minimum bill even if there is no, should that be sewer service
I would say,
or water?
well, I would think it would go ahead with the sewer service since it's the same thing here. Even if there's no water service, they're still gonna be charged. I mean,
Okay, first 1,000 gallons or less, $21.41 is the minimum bill. All over 1,000 gallons based on water usage attributable of the customer for the property served at a rate of $2.25 per 1,000 gallons. The access fee, $20.50. Rates for the first 1,000 gallons and rates for the usage greater than 1,000 gallons will be adjusted 2% annually. Rates will be reviewed in January to ensure the 2% increase is adequate. Section 2, severability clause. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, when effective, this ordinance shall be in effect from and after its final passage, approval, and publication as provided by law.
I motion. We approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First reading passed. Consider waiving the second, third reading of ordinance 170.
I motion.
Second.
Sure.
Ashley was second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we've adopted ordinance 170. Consider for approval resolution 22-06, vacation of alley and transfer of title. How many times do we have to do this?
That's what I was wondering. It's different people.
Oh, this one. We're having a hearing at 6:30. No, this is for regular.
I know she mentioned something about they came, when she went to do hers up there, something about apparently there was 2 J blocks that were listed as J in Union.
Surprise.
I know she mentioned that, otherwise, I'm not sure what.
We have to have a hearing on this.
Well, that's what it says down here at the
Yeah.
bottom. We're having a hearing on this on June 14th.
So that's our next
About the
meeting.
regular council meeting night.
Oh, the resolution is to get that on the council, okay. Okay, resolution number 22-06, notice of proposed closing and vacation of alley and transfer of title thereto to adjacent property owners. Whereas a request for Daniel Bales, Troy and Linda Wilson, Todd and Marissa Spiker, and Dennis and Stephanie Carson has been filed with the City of Union asking that action be taken to vacate a section of City of Union roadway described as follows. The 16-foot wide, approximately 132-foot long alley running north and south between lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the east and lots 5, 6, 7, and 8 on the west in Block F in the north side addition in the City of Union, Iowa. Wow. And 16-foot wide, approximately 132-foot long alley running north and south between lots 1, 2, 7, and 8 on the east and lots 3 and 6 on the west in Block 8 of Benson's addition in the City of Union, Iowa. Now therefore be it resolved, notice is hereby given that the City of Union, Iowa proposes to vacate and close the above described parcel of real estate in Hardin County, Iowa. Notice is further given that the city, after vacating and closing the above described property, proposes to convey same in relative proportion to the lots the transferees each individually own that sit adjacent to the alleys referenced above by quitclaim deeds to the adjacent lot owners, namely Daniel Bales, Troy and Linda Wilson, Todd and Marissa Spiker, and Dennis and Stephanie Carson. Said transfers will be for the valuable consideration. Notice is further given that a hearing on the vacation and closing of and the conveyance of title to the above described portion of said platted alley as required by sections 306.11 and 364.7 of the Code of Iowa will be held in the council chambers at City Hall, Union, Iowa at 6:30 p.m. on the 14th day of June 2022. And anyone interested may appear at said time and place and voice their objections, if any they may have.
Motion to approve.
Actually made a motion to approve resolution number 22-06. Carrie, second. Do roll call. Simpson,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Collins.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have discuss an action on a part-time maintenance person and/or do we want to contract mowing and do as we're doing, which it's kind of puts a strain on us sometimes, so.
Yeah, especially with the mowing. I did talk with Al Bergman today. He, in the beginning, he kinda entertained the idea of mowing it for the city. He has in the past. He wasn't real hip on the weed eating part. I said, well, maybe we can work around that. Later that day, he come up by the house and said, you know what? I really don't even wanna get involved with it, so. He really doesn't wanna do the mowing. He said he would mow it, if we get somebody to mow it. He knows it needs to be mowed, he's seen that it's getting pretty long. He'll knock it down for us, until we got somebody to mow it. He wouldn't go that far, he said. So I would say if we hire somebody to mow, we'll probably need to replace the mower. The mower's getting it's getting pretty bad shape. I don't know, it kind of barely made it through last season. But it would be something to look at, maybe we'd have to replace the mower, or at least it's gonna need some major repairs and probably a new deck. And it's really in bad shape, so. I don't know, that's all I know.
Is there anyone else that contracts mowing? Lavelle's, maybe?
Lavelle's mowed a phone company, and they mowed a cemetery, I know. But I don't know what kind of rates they charge, or if they'd be interested.
Oh,
That's my cousin, so I can ask.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where all you know.
I know.
Well,
this
we
do
mow
part of Iowa.
the maintenance building, we mow it here, we mow the library,
hard.
the park, the water tower up there, and down by you, there's some grass where there's a town sign. We mow that.
Which, if they wanted to come down and look, I'm sure we could probably get
Yeah.
with them and go from there. The only issue we would probably run into is what are we gonna do with like some of these abandoned properties that the city has to take care of their yard?
Yeah, that would be another issue. We would have, they may contract those separately, maybe they're not opposed to doing the abatement mowing, or, yeah, that'd be another issue. We would still have to pay that contract mower and assess that to the abatement, you know. I mean, we assess it anyway at
Yeah.
whatever the rate is now, I don't know what it is, but it would just, whatever their rate is, you know, that's how it gets charged.
You'd have to redo the code,
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say there is,
because it's by Iowa state right now, which may be more than what we charge.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
but-
oh, I'm sure it was more to cover it, so, but that would, and I don't know if, I know Al Bergman, I don't think he did abatement mowing when he was here last time.
no,
He did say he charged $40, the last time he did it, he said it would be more.
He was ridiculously cheap.
Yes, and I said, hey, I get it, but then he come back later that afternoon today and said, you know what, I really don't wanna get involved with it. And I think he's trying to get out of the mowing business anyway.
yeah, I thought he was a few
So.
years back, so.
But anyway, he would hit it a time or two for us if we need to, so. We just have to reach out to him if it's gonna be a second before we get somebody.
So we just, do you want to get a hold of him and if he wants to set up a time or something so that we know and we can go around and show him?
Yeah, they were in town the other day, and I didn't think about it, cause I had talked to Al, and or was gonna talk with Al, and
My aunt and uncle usually mow down in this area. But he does hire high school students,
yeah,
like seniors or
Yeah.
something, or college.
good luck with that.
No, we're just gonna not worry about the maintenance right now and do what we're doing and.
Yeah, we should actively look and get back to us, cause we need mowed, and I can help mow. In the meantime, we'll reach out to Al to knock it down this first time while we're waiting to hear back.
I will it might be tomorrow morning, but I'll try calling tonight.
Okay.
They were at a track meet.
Yeah, and then just let me know, or let Cindy know, and we can have them,
It was a big track meet they were at, but I can't answer for it,
In the meantime, how do y'all feel about having Al mow it once just to get it down?
I'm fine with that.
I mean, I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm gonna guess 50 or 60 bucks. He said it's gonna be more than 40. But, in that way, we can't have to go around and do abatements if our grass is longer than theirs.
Yeah.
So that's where that's at. That's all I know about that.
So we'll just let the maintenance man slide right now.
Yeah, well, let's,
Well, pick away, and sometime, maybe if there's something that a council person can help us out with,
You just need to call me, let me know.
I know Mr. Teskey has a pothole down in front of his drive.
Have a what?
Pothole.
Oh, yeah. I hit that every day.
you gotta know where it's at by now.
Yeah.
You want to flag up?
So we might,
Jody Stillman told me.
I don't know what the county charges for coal patch, but I think that's where they usually get it from.
Yeah, he told me he watched them doing that.
John was getting it at Norby's.
I went to Norby's and they didn't carry it.
They didn't, and I bought 3 bags from Menards the other day for my driveway, so I know Menards has it. But
But there's,
if you buy it by the bulk, you gotta use it,
yeah,
you know what I
Well,
mean? You gotta give it
we
up.
have enough mess up by the bank, that's for it.
Over by her,
Yeah.
over by her house.
Well, right,
Well, that's gonna take more than coal patch.
yeah.
Well, that's from Gerke's.
That should be, the phone company should actually repair that.
Exactly.
That's another deal.
Okay, so Carrie, if you wanna check with them and maybe we can set up a time and,
Does anybody have any thoughts on a part-time maintenance guy? Got anybody what might be interested in doing 20 hours a week or something?
He's too busy now. In the winter he could, but not now.
Cause there's always stuff to do. I mean, there's stuff like at the park, there's garbage to empty, and there's libraries always looking for somebody to,
Okay. That Skylar Crosser,
but,
he has a sign up at the SNAP. He's a mower, construction worker,
oh, the new guy that moved in down here at
Steve's house.
Steve's house?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know,
I didn't know he was living here in town.
Yeah, he's in town. He lives in Steve's house. And he has a flyer up at the SNAP, and he does lawn mowing, he says. and I think he said $35.
Pretty reliable guy and everything.
I don't know.
Well, let's just, everybody keep that
Let's
in
go
mind.
the route we're going right
Okay.
now.
Let's
And
table that if something would, if somebody comes up and say, hey, you guys looking for somebody, he might be the guy that we're looking for.
Okay, discuss some possible action on pool updates.
Ashley's gonna talk for me today.
We are going to do pool cleanup the 21st, 10 a.m. We're gonna shoot to open it on June 1st. We wanna do like 12 to 8 for the hours. We need to figure out a wage for the lifeguards.
That would probably be the same as last year.
I don't know what it was last year.
You remember, Nate? Lacey would have that.
I wanna say, 10 or 10:15, I think.
Have we ever got an estimate on the repairs?
Yeah, that's somebody who's gonna come from Des Moines.
They, with the weather and all that crap, they didn't make it up, so we're hoping, what did you say the other day?
21st.
Yeah. While we were doing cleanup. he
Oh, they're
said.
supposed to be there, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And that's the inspection and everything?
No
No.
inspection.
Oh, that's
It's just
the,
to look and get our quotes for repairs.
okay.
And if you don't have a furnace, you're gonna need
Well,
2
the
weeks would be
furnace,
pretty iffy to.
that
fill
furnace that's up there,
the pieces
that
of furnace.
hasn't ran for years. Yeah.
It ran the year
That's
before COVID,
bad.
but we filled it last,
Yes, we have the
And-
grant.
it was incredibly hot, and it's still 2 weeks later was ice cold, so you're gonna have to allow a lot of sit time after you fill it.
Yeah,
Plus, it does have to be inspected.
yes,
That happens by the county, that just,
that's,
They do that. The county?
you don't do it before you
The
open.
county or the state?
It's out of the county, we used to get it out of Blackhawk County, now it's out of Hardin County.
Yep.
It's not, I don't think it's a county office, it's a group of counties, but they inspect pools and tattoo parlors.
Oh.
Oh, maybe we
Nice
can put
lady.
one of
What a
those up there.
combination.
Yeah,
We got
but they
one
just
of
schedule, they
did?
just pop in and
Kids
inspect,
are-
usually ours is August.
They've got a tattoo sign out
Oh,
front.
yeah, that's gone.
Last year, I know it was inspected in June.
But she came early last year, yes. But normally it was August, it was the same lady the year before, or 2 years before. We weren't open the year before that. But you can open, if you have your license, you don't have the inspection until you're already open. They want you to have books to show that you're doing your tests, and that's what they're inspecting, is your chlorine results and that stuff as much as anything.
Where are you at with lifeguard?
where were we, up to 5 possibilities? Since I just now got the applications.
Well, like I said, nobody's inquired in here at all.
We didn't put an ad out because we didn't have all our information, so we waited, but we verbally talked to people, so.
How many do they normally
Still
have?
got all your information.
It's nice to have 10, 11, it's kind of,
Yeah.
From the past, is that-
11, is that what?
that would be nice.
Yeah, that way you can rotate schedule.
Well,
Well-
towards the end of the season, they start not wanting to work as much, so it's nice to have.
Yeah,
What?
and what, when
Got my bill
it's,
when you're ready?
when you got lifeguard scheduled, they don't show up, and there's no replacement, then what?
Then it's kind of like your workplace, no calling, no show up.
And so if you can round up some more, maybe?
Oh, yeah, we plan on it.
And I would also recommend closing holidays. That helped me get lifeguards a lot easier. It was really hard to get them to work holidays.
I'm owning the snap, I kinda understand
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I'll have Tamber put a thing in the announcements
Yep.
tomorrow.
If we agree, do we have to vote on the wage,
On the what?
on the wage for a lifeguard? Do we have to vote
They
on that?
probably just do so that it's down on paper.
Yeah, I think you
You have
submitted
to vote to
something.
approve every lifeguard.
Yeah.
Well, I understand approving the
It's
lifeguard,
just
but
And
do
you
we
on
have
have
to
to,
wait at
wage.
the same time.
well, we wanna put an ad out and all
Okay.
that, so
I mean, if you're planning the same wage, if everybody kind of informally
Well,
agrees, then you're good to
What
go.
wage was you thinking?
1050, oh, sorry.
10.50?
1050 to 1075, somewhere around there.
I think we were at 1050. I just think
And I
that's where
think
we were.
that's what all the,
Yeah, Keely was like that last year. I think it was 10.50.
10.50.
1050 is okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'll make a motion, if it needs to be in the form of a motion, that you can go ahead and post that. as
Okay,
that
thank you.
in your-
I second it.
I think you also need to put it in the paper just to cover your
I've got my
bases.
ad ready, I just wanted to make sure.
Nope, you will get nothing from the paper, but I think you're better off to just.
Yeah. Well, with Hubbard's closing, we have possibility of getting lifeguards
Yeah.
from over in that area too, so.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think Ackles is closing too, because they're getting a new pool.
Yeah, but who wants to drive through down here for hours? The gas.
It'll go to-
Well, I knew some Eldora people went up there.
And if you're thinking, gonna try and have it open June 1st,
I
we're
know,
gonna have to have a special meeting
Yep.
to go over the lifeguards and,
that's what she said, we were thinking.
so. I guess, was there any other questions on the pool?
Is there
I don't have a
a
question.
pool manager?
Gonna be her or me
Or jointly?
jointly,
Jointly.
and then she's gonna fill in a few times.
I'm doing her or not.
Her son's up there, so
Yeah.
she's gone. And then we have a lot of adults that have volunteered to sit up there and kind of keep an eye on things too,
Do you have
so.
a chemical person? She's gonna do it? Okay. Good.
Or at least the last time we talked, she would say,
She's licensed.
yes.
Yes.
Probably because she was helping down at the sewer line, in the sewer.
No,
She was
managed
did it
to-
last
She
year.
is
Her head was up.
Yeah. She went to the class or whatever.
I had enough for the class in order to have work down there.
I don't think she ever did anything for sure there, but Dennis is still.
But she did have, she had first, took a whole last fall.
That was the intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that ever
We
happened.
gotta talk about the.
Because, what we were concerned about is Dennis quitting when Stephanie quit.
Never mind.
And that was why, when we hired her, that was a stipulation. When Dennis didn't quit.
Okay, Tom, if you wanna kinda run through the issue we have down here in the field.
The manhole, the thing, and those was one of the bills from South Fork. The farmer hit the manhole down here in that field, knocked it off its base. Luckily, they came and let us know, hey, we hit a manhole. So we go down there and it's full of dirt and we don't really know. And we're looking for the GPS coordinates to find the other, because we're thinking, okay, this might be the time to go ahead and raise these manholes. And so we get a vac truck out there to suck it out. Well, the consensus is that that was an old sewer line. That was the old line, so that part of it was good. We don't have a problem with the sewer backing up. So, well, let's go to confirm that. Let's find a new manhole with these coordinates that we finally found and dig it up and make sure we,
And let there be light.
Thank you. It was dark over there.
let's make sure we know, we can say for sure this is a dead line. We found a new manhole and, okay, we're good. Well, in the meantime, the farmer is madder than Fort Dodge, man. He is hot. And, because they want to plant it. And, well, plant it when we're done, as far as I'm concerned, because you did this, we didn't do this. And so now we've got lawyers involved and the county's involved. he's still pissed off, and he don't care what the hell we do, he ain't gonna approve nothing, ain't nobody coming on our property. And so now we're trying to get with the county to get the easements decided, because the whole project was raising those manholes to keep groundwater from going in them, backing up into town when we get heavy rain. And that was the project. So while we're here, and we got this bad timing, but let's have a look at these anyway. I had the guy come from Des Moines on an emergency phone call, look at this, well, we got it open, tell us what we need. And it's gonna be typical for 5 manholes, and the farmer's going, 5 manholes, and he's throwing another fit.
Oh, goodness.
So, right now, I guess the way it stands is the county's looking, we know we've got, or I've got documents or drawings that show an easement I found down in the maintenance building today. But it has no real description of the easement, like what we can do on that. Are we allowed to raise those manholes above ground level and let the farmer farm around them? Or do they need to be underground so he can farm over them?
Well, just write it in, Tom.
Write it in, beside it, and date it 1964?
Sure. Be over with, farmer would know.
Use a pencil.
But with them underground, that's not gonna solve the issue, right?
And that's why we're trying to raise them up, so we can stop the water from
Is that farm ground or is that city property?
this farm ground.
Wow.
That's the old Donaldson farm that some developer guy owns now from, I don't know where he's from, and he hasn't been the easiest to deal with, so.
But he's got a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's got a lawyer, he's researched, he told me this morning on the phone that by God, he's got his people researching that easement. And he's gonna fight us tooth and nail, he said. So, right now it's in the hands of the county looking for a description of the easement, and our lawyers trying to work with a description of the easement. I don't think there's any question that we can get on there and do, well, if we had to get in there, I think, but he's gonna say, your easement says 12 foot 5 inches. By God, that's all, don't be tracking all over my field. You know, you stay within
How many acres
that.
does that have? How many acres? Is it 25 or 40?
40, I think. Yeah.
Big deal.
And then we go on to that next farm, but we don't have an issue there. You know, we may at some point, there's a manhole over there that at some point we'd like to raise it up too, and that's on Johnson's, I think. So, but this guy he hasn't been real easy to work with, so. That's where that's at. It was kind of an emergency call out. And we had to open up the other one to actually determine that we didn't want to push that in and bury that other one until we knew for sure this is the deadline, and we verified it with drawings and the fact that it was, okay, here it is and there's water running through it. This one's dry, even though it's blowed full of dirt. We don't see anything pushing back on it. The vac truck, everybody agreed that, okay, let's push it in. I called the guy, asked him what he wanted to do with his hole, because we were gonna dump some Sackcrete in it and seal it, and kind of do it the right way. He said, just dump some dirt in, fill it up, and if we have trouble with it later, we'll worry about it. But at that point, I figure it's his, our easement's over on the new sewer line, he can deal with that however he wants to.
Do you need that many manholes though? Can you get by?
According to the engineers
There you go.
that you go to, that's what, when
You
that
can't
was,
cap 2 or 3 of them, but then
But-
two up.
But if there's an issue, that it's the access, because that's your access points too.
we would cut the water leaking in by
Yeah,
2 or
right.
3. But they do make vinyl or some kind of a rubber, basically a rubber blanket. Okay, let's blanket these things, you still gotta dig them up, you could encapsulate them, put the dirt back on them. Supposedly that's supposed to be a fix.
Bridges.
The other fix would be putting risers on them, because those new ones are 4 foot down.
Oh,
The old one,
Sewer.
well, they hit it with something, and it was 6 inches down. But they were in there with bulldozers, clearing trees and pushing burn piles up, if you remember over there. So,
why didn't they have that survey before they started that?
they should have, so it's, you know, it's on them. Timing sucks, I get it. You know, you're wanting to plant, I get all that.
40 acres, my goodness.
But
Kelly?
we didn't cost this, yeah. So that's the last couple days doing that.
Should've-
That's all I got on that. And that was the bill from Perry.
Yep.
So, and then he hired the vac truck to come in. And then once we determined that, we cut them loose and said, all right, we're not even gonna worry about it. Thanks for coming out, short notice. And they were able to go on their way, so. We got done, it was still daylight, I think, when we got out of there. Anyway, that's it for that.
Barely.
Barely.
Yeah, it was 8
I was
o'clock.
watching you.
It was 8 o'clock.
So when Lacey gets back, and you guys, if you have your stuff together, I also have a thing that will have to be dealt with. It's not on the agenda tonight, so we can't do anything, but it has to do with that down along your area.
The
that
2 little
water,
ditches.
Oh, yeah,
You know there wasn't a drop of water on that South Creek?
it's so dry right now, it's,
No, I mean, yours was running full.
oh, you mean flow, yeah.
Yours was running full. That side that we were gonna,
Dry.
didn't have a drop of water in it.
My side gets the entire Dave's property here flooding, so it flows a lot.
And the other side's supposed to come down from Todd Spiker's area.
Yeah, I don't know what happens between
It gets
here
plugged, I
and
think.
there,
You
but
call
the
it
bigger
flood,
problem
too.
is from Mark Green's to Jesse's, the water flows this way. So
And
it
there
turns
wasn't,
into a
yeah, but
swamp.
there
There wasn't
wasn't,
any water in
there
there at all.
wasn't, during that rain.
It's so dry now, it's going in, but when it gets wet and there's water, it'll just sit there and be a,
But there wasn't even water coming down out of that, where at Steve Reese's corner, where it's open, it was dry. So it's up where somewhere,
yeah, it doesn't flow
It's
in
plugged.
for years.
I tried.
and we got it,
Because there used to be a ditch there and that
yeah,
stops right at that corner now, but
well, they put a tile in there, didn't they? On the
Not sure.
south side, you talking about on the condo side?
yeah. Not sure what's there.
Because Troy hosed that out last year, I think, and, all right, we can see water now, it's good, but I looked at it during that rainstorm, and there wasn't nothing coming
I
down.
just know last year Jesse was trying to save his basement and
Oh, I
Steve's
know.
sump pump just went in front of his house and right.
Oh.
And so he had to run his sump pump, he had to run clear to Mark Green's down the street.
Yeah, I seen that,
Because otherwise it just didn't
yeah,
flow.
but we got a price to do that
Yeah,
from
okay.
Perry, and I think that we can do without calling the Corps of Engineers. Getting General Patton involved.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion.
I second.
Meeting adjourned.